Welcome to the SynitiHUB podcast. Today we'll be discussing SAP MDG with Arthur, Syniti's Head of DQ Practices. Hi Arthur, thanks for joining us and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, my pleasure. My name is Arthur Wirthensohn. I'm working with Syniti for 6 years now, and I've worked with SAP MDG for 10 years now. So happy to talk about this topic.
The first question we have for you today is, what is SAP MDG, Master Data Governance, and what's it used for?
SAP MDG is the main component is a component for the central governance of master data, which is provided for objects like materials, business partners, customers, vendors, and financial objects as a standard content. Central governance means it's to govern the data, to manage a process, to keep the data clean, and to apply the right rules that when a master data gets changed, changed, that there is a process around that makes sure that everyone that needs to be involved is involved to the right degree. There are additional components in MDG, like a tool for mass processing, for mass upload. It's called MDG consolidation. And this piece can also do mass changes. A third component is MDG DQM that allows to apply data quality rules on the active area of the instance where SAP MDG is deployed. So that's in a nutshell what's MDG used for.
Thanks, Arthur. And what are the challenges that businesses face when implementing SAP MDG?
Let's put it like that, for a simple implementation, having MDG deployed on an ERP instance, so the data are already there, and it's a very simple process, then there are not really challenges because it's very, very fast to implement because the content is already there. So there's not so much to do about it. Complexity or challenges start with the complexity of requirements. So it means like if there is a complex implementation, it could become very, very technical very soon. And even compared to other SAP applications where consultants can customize or configure processes, this configuration can become quite complicated and technical very, very soon from an implementation point of view. And there are also a lot of technologies used to customize and to configure or code even the process and the behavior of SAP MDG. So this is one challenge to overcome. And the other challenge is like not really specific to SAP MDG, but this is specific to any MDM or governance tool or project, is the migration. Because when starting with a central master data hub, it requires a migration of the data from one or more sources and getting these data clean into this MDG system. And this is the other huge challenge, because if not taking care about that and starting an MDG system and MDG processes based on bad data, that's what no one wants. So this is the other challenge, getting the data really clean into MDG.
That was very clear, thank you. Now that we have a better understanding of the challenges, I'd like us to talk about how to address them. How can Syniti help companies overcome those challenges?
So on two ways. One is to tackling this challenge regarding technical complexity. This can be overcome by a tool which is called Rapid Data Governance, which is a cloud application that sits upon SAP MDG system and really simplifies the implementation process. So the most common issues or sub-challenges of this complexity thing is, on one hand side, to configure the workflow, to configure the rules, the data quality rules that need to be looked at, to configure the properties of the fields. And a fourth aspect is the data model itself. So if the data model has to be extended from the standard to the customer specific one, this is also quite complicated. This rapid data governance tool actually helps for all of these four aspects. For instance, it's possible having a graphical user interface to display the process, the governance process, and edit this process with exactly the data that SAP MDG needs to be configured. So there is an easy way to configure the process, and then this generates all these complex statics and dependencies in the background so that the process and this change request type is generated. For business rules and data quality rules, it's the same. There is a user interface that allows simply to define check rules or to define derivation rules, meaning rules where there are dependencies from one attribute to another one, even for multiple attributes deriving values or deriving values that go across entities, across tables in a traditional sense. This can be defined in the user interface and then generated so that the technical representation gets deployed on the MDG instance into the corresponding tools like BRF+, and it also generates code in the bodies that control those rules. Similarly, with the field properties to define if fields should be hidden, if they should be mandatory, things like that. This also can be defined on a user interface level, and then ABAP code is generated to control these settings. And similarly, it goes with the data model. So defining what needs to be extended, and this gets generated. This simplifies the implementation a lot. And the nice thing is also most of it can be used also when MDG is in place and there needs to be changes. So usually it required a lot of thinking of a consultant of what had been done before and just to do small changes. And using rapid data governance, that's just easy because looking at the graphical user interface, doing some changes, regenerating the stuff, and it works. So this is regarding simplifying the implementation. And the other piece where we can help, of course, is managing the migration. So getting the data clean and migrating them to MDG. And this is one of the core competencies that we have in our company. What we can also help a lot in relation to the tool is by using this tool alongside with a very, very highly skillful team of MDG consultants. We can help customers having a very efficient and transparent SAP MDG implementation to different degrees of involvement. So it's not our intention to do a fully owned MDG implementation, but we can help customers, and also together with other MDG implementers or SIs, taking over a certain piece of the MDG implementation and making it very, very efficient. Also because using this tool, we can use other methodologies like having a very agile approach, because through this highly transparent and graphical user interfaces, we can do changes together with the customer, looking at the processes, adapting processes very quickly, run through them. So we can use implementation approaches like conference room pilot or agile sprints with a kind of very rapid prototyping in the beginning, so that it's very easy to have a level setting of the whole team very, very soon. I think this brings in another advantage. This was kind of unique in the MDG implementation world.
So could you share some details on managing and cleansing the migration of data to SAP MDG?
Yeah, sure. So one thing is getting the right data into the MDG hub. So we would look for providing the relevant scope of clean data for loading to SAP MDG. And this is something we would do through using ADM, Advanced Data Migration Tool, to manage the transformation process of the source data to the relevant business-ready data in a loadable format to SAP MDG. Because I think everyone who has worked with SAP MDG, loading data means to either load into the active area, which means using the load tools that are also used for an S4 or SAP ERP load, be it iDocs or web service tools like that. So with ADM, we would really control the process of relevancies, the scope of data, the right transformation, and the right relationship or context to other data, and transform this to MDG load-ready data. And another aspect is, through this managed transformation process, we would also make sure that all the data that need to be standardized, and this is also an important topic in most of the MDG implementations, that MDG will be used to govern a new standard, a data standard across the organization. So that this data standard can be used, we would use ADM to really support in getting this standardization done to the business-ready data.
That's brilliant. I was wondering if you could give us a real-life example for that.
Yeah, sure. An example would be in chemical industry, which is a very complex environment with an old world of multiple ERP systems, even sub-companies that existed or coexisted from former mergers and acquisitions, and also having MDG systems which controlled certain old world standards, which has to be moved to a new S4, centralized S4 world, also a new standardized MDG world. Of course, not just MDG, but also this new S4 world is standardized. And we help these customers by providing a migration environment that helped to manage all these different dependencies to other systems, to organizations, and encapsulates this complexity to provide the new world in each rollout step with the right data in the right standards and make this safe.
Great, thanks Arthur. That was my last question for you today. Thank you for joining us on our SynitiHUB podcast. If you would like more information, please visit us at syniti.com. Thank you, and we will see you all in our next episode.